Recap Tales of Herding Gods, Chapter 607. Chapter Chinmu burst forth from the shrine like a startled dragon breaking through a storm, his figure flashing onto the stone steps of the divine mountain. In that instant, he dropped flat without hesitation, pressing his body beneath the cold stone. Two blazing pillars of divine radiance roared past just above him, their scorching brilliance searing the steps into a molten crimson glow. He remained still, enduring the heat and terror until the twin beams swept beyond him. Only then did he roll down onto the lower steps, rising in one fluid motion as though reborn from danger. With a sudden surge, he dashed forward like a raging dragon tearing through clouds, smoke trailing in his wake. As he raced downward, his vital chi surged wildly, weaving dense fog behind him. The mist swallowed the mountain, cloaking his path in obscurity. Yet from the wound at his neck, chi and blood flowed without restraint. Drawn by unseen forces, they streamed from his body toward the mountain itself. That wound had been carved by Qixi's claw, his fingernails piercing flesh like divine blades. Upon this god execution stage, even the smallest injury became a fatal curse. No medicine could mend it, no technique could halt it. Chi and blood would be devoured relentlessly by the mountain. The only path to survival was escape, swift and absolute. Within Chinmu, vitality drained at a terrifying pace. He dared not turn his head. Whether the mountain consumed his essence or Qixi devoured it made no difference. Clenching his teeth, he forced his weakening body onward, sprinting down the perilous slope. At last, he reached the mountain's base. By then, his mind had grown hazy from blood loss. Thunder roared beside his ears, and darkness swallowed his vision. His primordial spirit emerged from within, projecting outward to survey his surroundings. Acting swiftly, he retrieved dragon saliva from his Taoti sack and smeared it across his neck. Then, with trembling hands, he took out spirit Buddha pills, precious medicine that replenished blood, and swallowed them without delay. Feeling his body, his heart trembled in astonishment. In such a brief span, he had withered to the thinness of a matchstick. Recovery would take time. God execution stage, and Qixi had jointly siphoned his chi and blood. That he still lived was already a miracle. I wonder, was Qixi the cause of my blood flowing out so swiftly? Now gaunt as bamboo, Chinmu tucked the small case beneath his arm. Each step forward was unsteady, yet he pressed on, distancing himself from the strange and deadly mountain. His thoughts turned sharp. The blood-dissolving powder was mixed into the water. He first absorbed Jiehuali and Qijijui's blood, awakening himself with theirs before drinking those 3 pouches of water. The powder should have spread throughout his body with that water. When he drew my blood, it should have mixed and dissolved together. He depends on blood to awaken. Once it dissolves, he should fall dormant again. However, if he was cautious, he might have preserved some pure blood. Chinmu, master of healing and poison alike, understood such methods well. Preserving clean blood was simple for one of Qixi's caliber, and he knew exactly where Qixi would have hidden it. In his eyes, those radiant eyes that shone with divine light, only there could untainted blood remain. Thus, Chinmu could not be certain whether Qixi would truly fall dormant. He had to leave this place with all speed. If he is clever enough, he may expel the excess water from his body, shriveling himself entirely, then use the remaining blood in his eyes to sustain himself. Activating what little vital chi remained, Chinmu refined the spirit Buddha pills within him. A flicker of hope rose in his heart. Let him not be so clever. Within the shrine, Qixi knelt unmoving like a wooden idol frozen in eternity. From the fingertips of his 6 arms seeped murky water in thin streams. Within that flow was spoiled blood, pale and corrupted. Chinmu's blood-dissolving powder could not affect divine blood. It dissolved only the blood Qixi had absorbed from Qijuyi, Jiehuali, and part of Chinmu himself. Time passed. Gradually, the water drained from Qixi's body. What remained was a grotesque figure, a withered corpse with 3 heads and 6 arms, terrifying in its stillness. Yet within the eyes of the foremost face, a faint glimmer flickered. With painstaking care, Qixi extracted a sliver of blood from his eye. That trace ignited fragments of bodily function. Slowly, unsteadily, he rose. His 2 other heads drooped lifelessly. His 6 arms hung slack. The blood within his eyes was too scarce. Only minimal functions could be sustained. The rest of his body remained dormant, Step by step, he struggled from the hall. It took a long time before he reached the shrine's stone steps. His legs pulled beneath him, and he tumbled down the divine mountain. His descent was slow and pitiful. Where Chinmu, Jaehwali, and Chi-Juyi had fled like lightning, Qixi could only roll downward inch by inch. It took him an entire hour to reach the mountain's base. After resting long, he began to crawl again, his body straining toward the need for water. Far away, Chinmu stood beside a lake. Without hesitation, he scattered bag after bag of blood, dissolving powder into the waters. Seeing Qixi approaching in the distance, he poured in the remainder swiftly. With a divine art, he summoned clouds above the lake. From within them, a divine dragon descended, plunging its tail into the water and churning it violently. With a wave of his hand, Chinmu turned and fled. Twin beams of light erupted from Qixi's eyes, streaking through the air, but they struck nothing. Chinmu had already vanished into the distance. Water. Rage twisted Qixi's voice. He staggered forward, but his body could endure no more. He collapsed upon the ground. So close, yet impossibly far, he had struggled here with every ounce of strength, only to find the lake poisoned. To find another source of water would take months, perhaps years. At that moment, thunder rolled across the heavens. The sound jolted him awake. With immense effort, he flipped over, lifting his heads toward the sky. The mouths of all three heads opened wide, anticipation gleaming in his hollow eyes as he awaited the rain. Dark clouds gathered, lightning flashed. The heavens grew heavy, but far away atop another mountain, fire dragons surged into the sky. They chased away the gathering clouds, scattering them. Moments later, the sky cleared into brilliant blue, white clouds drifting harmlessly away. Qixi turned his head with great effort. His eyes flared once more. Two beams of divine light piercing through the distant mountaintop, blasting two gaping holes into it. "If I find you!" Elsewhere, Chinmu descended swiftly after dispersing the rain clouds. Behind him, the distant mountains suffered unjust destruction, pierced by Qixi's fury. His strength had mostly returned, though his corporeal body remained far from its peak. "It likely won't rain for some time. I should be safe to recover and study this small case." His form melted into a shadow, clinging to the earth as he moved. He erased every trace of his presence, ensuring that even if Qixi recovered after rainfall, he would not easily track him. After a long while, Chinmu emerged from the shadows, revealing his figure once more. Lifting the small case, he examined it carefully. This case was the core mechanism of the god execution stage. Its surface bore intricate markings, ancient and profound. They were runes from the Crimson Light era, entirely different from those of the present age. The cultivation paths, skills, and divine arts of that era must have been vastly different. Chinmu studied the runes in detail, attempting to unravel their secrets. Yet he had never encountered such symbols before. They were utterly alien to him. Reluctantly, he abandoned his attempt. Around the case, faint sunlight swirled in gentle patterns. This light was harmless. He had tested it with his spirit weapon before claiming the case. It held no destructive power, merely the glow of something hidden within. The case itself was not locked, yet it would not open. No seam offered leverage. No matter what method Chinmu employed, even striking it with carefree sword, he could not leave the slightest mark upon it. Suddenly, footsteps echoed. A familiar voice followed. "Brother Qin truly is extraordinary. To escape from such a dire situation, I admire you greatly." Chinmu placed the case beneath his arm and turned. A smile spread across his face as he looked at Chi-Juyi. Though Chi-Juyi maintained his elegant bearing, he too had suffered, his qi and blood partially drained by the mountain and qi-shi. Yet compared to Chinmu's skeletal form, he still retained flesh and vitality. Chinmu had been drained first by qi-shi, then by the mountain itself. His body had been pushed beyond its limits. Chi-Juyi and Jaehwali had nearly ended him within the shrine. The toll upon his qi and blood far exceeded theirs. Now Chi-Juyi stood prepared. Behind him rose an ancient parasol tree, towering and radiant. Flames spread outward in all directions. Upon its branches rested a golden phoenix nest, woven from radiant straw and sacred wood. Within it perched a 9-headed phoenix, each head exhaling flames to temper its own divine body. His great divine art had reached its peak. "Where is senior brother Jaehwali?" Chinmu asked, glancing around. "He challenged me," Chi-Juyi replied calmly, "and was gravely wounded. He fled. Brother Qin, you likely do not recognize that small case. Allow me to enlighten you. Qinmu's expression grew solemn. I am all ears. 35,000 years ago, in the crimson light celestial heavens, it may have borne another name, but in our era it is known as the God Execution Mysterious Knife. Qi Juyi steadied himself. The nine-headed phoenix lifted its gaze toward Qinmu. As for its contents, unless one serves within the celestial heavens, one would never know. Such cases are used to store heads. Human heads? Qinmu's eyes widened. He shook the case slightly. No sound emerged. Qi Juyi smiled faintly. The head of a powerful practitioner upon Emperor's throne, used as a blade to execute gods. Since Brother Qin cannot open it, why not hand it to me? I can demonstrate. With both hands, Qinmu extended the case sincerely. Please. Qi Juyi's gaze fixed upon it. He drew a deep breath. Behind him, the ancient parasol tree rose as he activated the Emperor's throne technique. Qinmu released the case. It fell. Beneath it, upon his palm, a sword pellet spun silently. Qi Juyi retreated, his figure merging with the parasol tree. It surged upward, growing to 50 yards in height. The nine-headed phoenix shrieked, wings flaring as it dove toward Qinmu like a blazing streak of light. Twang! A blinding sword light erupted. Calamity Sword unleashed its fury, clashing against the descending phoenix. In that instant, flames devoured the sunlight. Sword and fire collided, exploding across the mountains like a newborn sun. Radiant, violent, unstoppable. Qi Yi roared, striking forward with a phoenix mudra. The ancient parasol tree followed, crashing forward with devastating force, crushing all in its path. Qinmu's opening Calamity Sword collided head-on with the nine-headed phoenix. The might of these two supreme divine arts stood nearly equal, neither yielding an inch. The sword intent of opening Calamity pierced straight through the phoenix's blazing form, erupting in an instant into 8,000 streaks of sword light, each one clashing against the countless divine manifestations contained within the nine-headed phoenix. Yet in that very moment, the ancient parasol tree came crashing down with overwhelming force. Its branches lashed wildly, sunlight bursting outward in all directions like a heavenly tide. Under this crushing impact, the power of opening Calamity Sword began to wither and falter. Qinmu retreated, drawing his sword back. Without hesitation, he activated the Overlord Body 3 elixir technique. From within his body erupted 8 thunderous dragon roars. The vibrations of the 8 voices of ancestral dragons surged through him, causing his weakened qi and blood to thicken and surge with unparalleled vigor in an instant. Within Qinmu's body, his divine treasures abruptly reversed. The divine treasures of the God Path sank below, while those of the Devil Path rose above. His spirit embryo, 5 elements, 6 directions, and 7 stars all inverted, reshaping the order of his cultivation foundation. The primordial spirit formed from his spirit embryo and soul descended into the spirit embryo divine treasure of the Devil Path. Standing tall upon the Devil land, beneath his feet lay the 6 directions land, formed from his Devil Path spirit platform. Above him, the heavens of the Devil Path shone brilliantly. His Devil Sun and Devil Moon radiated dark brilliance, while the 5-element devil gods stood towering upon the devil palaces atop the 5-element stars. The instant Qinmu withdrew his sword, he thrust forward once more. Again. It was the first of Calamity Sword, opening Calamity. The sphere of light formed from their earlier clash swelled once more, but this time streaks of black sword light mixed within it. From the core of the sphere, ink-dark sword rays spread outward, tainting the radiance in a blink. Both of their divine arts were nearly obliterated. Before the remaining light could erupt outward, the countless trees within the valley had already collapsed. Centered around the sphere of light, destruction spread in all directions. Chunks of mountain rock were lifted into the air, hurtling outward at terrifying speeds. Within the fading brilliance, Qinmu retreated again, drawing his sword for the second time. Qi Juyi stepped forward, his hands clasped together. The phoenix nest upon the parasol tree suddenly soared into the air as golden rice straws and parasol branches surged toward Qinmu like a divine tide. Qinmu drew his sword and gave it a sharp jolt. The 8,000 swords merged and fused into one, transforming into the carefree sword in his grasp. Sword light flickered as he met the incoming golden straws and branches head on. A Dao charm, faint yet profound, emerged around his body. The sword in his hand seemed like ever-changing symbols, shifting endlessly like numbers in motion. The 14th writing of Tao's sword. Tao nourishes the earth of all heavens, giving birth to all laws. The whole world returns to one. Even the old Tao master of the Tao sect had failed to fully comprehend this move, achieving only half its essence. Yet even that incomplete form had been hailed as the supreme god, writing of sword techniques in eternal peace. It was not due to a lack of talent or insight, but because Tao's sword encompassed the mathematical transformations of all things between heaven and earth. A single error would render it impossible to cultivate. And within eternal peace, the sun, moon, and stars were false. Subtle flaws existed within the heavenly cycle and stellar calculations. Using flawed foundations to comprehend the 14th writing made success impossible. Qin Mu, however, had also learned this writing. His attainment in algebra had already reached extraordinary heights. The reason he could comprehend it was not superior talent, but because he had seen the star Atlas from 35,000 years ago and had studied the star formations left behind by the founding master to guard the god execution mysterious knife. Only through this was he able to grasp the profundity of the 14th writing, even calculating the method to unravel the killing formation. As the whole world returns to one was executed, none of his cultivation was consumed, nor was his vital qi depleted. Instead, his sword skill borrowed the power of heaven and earth itself. With flashing sword light, it shattered the incoming golden straws and parasol branches. Having already used Opening Calamity twice to break Qi Juyi's divine arts, Qin Mu's vital qi had been greatly exhausted. Though the 14th writing was slightly inferior in raw power, it was the most suitable choice at this moment. The clash of sword, straw, and branch erupted in explosive force. Yet Qin Mu advanced instead of retreating. Charging directly at Qi Juyi, his corporeal body expanded, muscles bulging as power surged through him. Countless fine sword light streamed from the carefree sword, transforming into a pig-slaughtering knife. The blade was 5 feet long and 2 feet wide, like holding a slab of a door. In his grip, it radiated savage intent. The pig-slaughtering knife split into two, one in each hand, like twin doors of slaughter. Qi Juyi retreated, refusing to close the distance. Behind him, a pair of phoenix wings unfolded. Slashing repeatedly through the air, his magic power was nearly depleted. He had prepared his great divine art for a long time, and its execution had drained him heavily. To withstand 2 opening calamities and block the 14th writing of Tao's sword was already an extraordinary feat. Among the younger generation, he was undoubtedly the first to push Qin Mu to such a level. The power of his phoenix wings was far from ordinary. Qin Mu charged forward like a whirlwind, his twin pig-slaughtering knives slashing up and down, knife-like coiling around his body. He unleashed butcher's knife techniques, combined with Cripple's heaven-pilfering divine legs, making his movements erratic and unpredictable. The ultimate arts of Cripple and Butcher merged seamlessly within him. Meanwhile, Qi Juyi's wings spread and folded. Countless feathers shot out like swords, colliding in rapid succession. His sword techniques seized every opening. Striking against Qin Mu's knife techniques, his feathers wielded sword arts, his wings wielded knife arts. His mastery of both was profound. His combat skill was no weaker than Qin Mu's. The two clashed at blinding speed. Qin Mu's twin blades shifted left and right, sometimes like a raging whirlwind, sometimes like crashing ocean waves under the rising sun, sometimes like a crescent blade hanging beneath the moon, swift as a falling star. He pressed Qi Juyi relentlessly, forcing him back step by step. Whoosh! The 2 pig-slaughtering knives suddenly shrank. From them burst forth streams of flying swords like silver fish darting through water, flashing like lightning in the air. Hundreds of swords moved as if guided by invisible masters, attacking Qi Juyi from every direction. Qin Mu had also unleashed village chief's sword techniques. Qi Juyi let out a sharp cry. His single head exploded, splitting into 9. The feathers on each head trembled, releasing spheres of light that blasted the flying swords from the sky. The 9 phoenix heads pecked downward. Qin Mu's blades crossed, one vertical, one horizontal, ready to strike. But at the critical moment, Chi-Ji raised his wings to intercept. Chinmu's knives slashed into the wings, embedding deep into the bones, unable to be withdrawn. Chi-Jui's heads struck downward toward Chinmu's chest. Their beaks opened, gathering spheres of light. Chinmu suddenly yanked his knives free. One slashed across a throat, the other plunged into a beak. Meanwhile, the blades embedded in the wings reverted to two flying swords, still lodged within. The pig slaughtering knives were formed from 8,000 swords. Each sword was originally an independent entity. Even if some remained embedded, the others could reform the knives. The throat struck by the blade was forcibly pulled back by Chi-Ju-Yi, suppressing the knife's power and preventing decapitation. At the same time, another beak snapped shut, biting down on a blade. Chinmu withdrew his knives again. Chi-Ju-Yi managed to bite onto only a single flying sword. The twin blades then slashed toward another head, following a relentless pattern. Chi-Ju-Yi had no choice but to bite again and brace the blade with his neck. Chinmu withdrew once more, leaving behind more swords embedded in flesh, and struck again at the next head. Chi-Ju-Yi roared in fury, his claws clenching tightly. Blood flowed from 4 of his heads. The pain pierced deep into his soul and marrow. Chinmu cut him off mid-sentence, drawing back and striking again for the 5th time. Chi-Jui's rage surged uncontrollably, yet he could only bite down once more. In an instant, 8 of his 9 heads and necks were hung with embedded swords. The one surnamed Chin! You have angered me! Do not underestimate the divine arts of the celestial heavens! Cry of the phoenix in 9 heavens. The final phoenix head cried out. Its voice pierced the heavens. The cry echoed through the sky, forming clouds. Within those clouds, divine voices resounded, as though countless gods were chanting. Under the blessing of 10,000 gods, beams of light descended, enveloping Chi-Ju-Yi. Golden light covered his entire body. The final phoenix head struck downward. Chinmu responded in kind. Chi-Ju-Yi did not evade. He met the blade head-on. His beak split, his neck vessels severed. Yet the golden radiance allowed him to endure the strike, forcing his beak deep into Chinmu's chest. Chinmu was sent flying, tumbling across the ground before stabilizing himself with his blade. Chi-Ju-Yi, bathed in golden light, flapped his wings and surged forward. His 9 heads shook, dislodging the embedded swords. Gradually he returned to human form, the golden wings fading away. Qin Fengqing, fix! Chi-Ju-Yi sneered, raising a mirror to shine upon Chinmu. The son of Yudu sealed by Earth Count. Do you think I am truly beneath you? I was merely ordered to capture you. Not kill you. I shall break your seal and release your true self. This mirror was crafted by the black deity of the northern heavens. It is made to immobilize you. You have done well to injure me. Immobilize me? Let me see. Chinmu suddenly reached out and seized the mirror. Chi-Ji was stunned as it was torn from his grasp. In the next instant, a gleaming blade descended toward him. Pain exploded through his skull as the strike nearly shattered his mind. He was forced to revert into his 9-headed phoenix form. Each head still bore the embedded pig-slaughtering knives, their blades nearly piercing into his brain. Chi-Ji flapped his wings, attempting to flee. But Chinmu was faster. He leapt onto the phoenix's back, raining down a flurry of blows, feathers scattered in all directions under the relentless assault. Below, the injured Jaehuali approached swiftly and picked up the small case. A look of delight spread across his face. But when he looked up and saw Chinmu riding the phoenix, his expression turned to astonishment. Brother Qin is truly formidable. To suppress Chi-Ju-Yi like this, his strength surpasses mine by a clear margin. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the aureole behind. And I am the aureole. Now that the case is in my hands, the God Execution mysterious knife will elevate my blade arts further.